So what is going on, everybody? Fernando Silva here with another video, and Apple just released iPadOS 15.1 Beta 4 to all developers, which means probably the next day public developers will be able to test it out, and then hopefully within the next week, maybe two, we'll get iPadOS 15.1 released to the entire public. But today we're going to change it up a little bit in terms of what's new, because there aren't that many differences, so what we're going to do is go over the build number, go over some of the settings, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk everybody through the actual release notes that we developers, or at least signed up developers, because I'm not really a developer, but signed up developers actually get in terms of what's new, what's been fixed, what resolved issues there are, and what continues to be a hindrance in terms of performance. And then we're going to touch on battery performance overall with iPadOS. But without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so let's hop right into this video, everybody. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you know that I like to take screenshots of all the actual updates. So here we see that it was a pretty small update, so 450 megabytes. So give yourself about 1 gigabyte of extra storage to make sure that you get this installed properly with zero issues. Because if you don't have enough memory or enough storage, it's gonna be a little bit difficult. It'll kind of reset your device and not let you actually update it. So 15.1 developer beta 4. The next thing I'm gonna talk about is actually into the build number. So let's go into settings, go into the about section. Let me pull this up, and if I click on the 15.1, you now see that we're on 19B5068A. So that A moniker now means that we're getting closer and closer, so the next one should be the release candidate or the RC edition, ideally next week on Tuesday, and then maybe by Thursday of next week, we'll actually get the final release for everybody on iOS 15 and iPadOS 15. So the entire public should start to receive this update over the air moving forward, probably by the end of next week, if not 2 weeks from today. And overall, there were no actual visible changes that I could actually see. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna go into Safari. I'm gonna walk you guys through the actual release notes that we have here. So this is what Apple gives all of the developers that are signed up. And again, I'm not an actual developer. I just pay the $100 a year to actually become a developer and get access to this stuff early. So as you can see, right now, there's some known issues with the core data, which is, again, mostly for developers when they're coding new applications that they have to follow the rules that Apple kind of follows. Then there's also a new update with Home. So I have been having issues with HomeKit, especially with the Siri, right? So normally I like to turn off all my lights when I'm in bed, and I kind of just tell Siri to turn everything off, and she recognizes my voice and she tries to go into the Home app, but whenever I say to turn off all the lights, it says that HomeKit is unresponsive. So I guess Apple isn't aware of this, so it has to do with Matter accessories, which I'm not 100% sure what they are, but there are some known issues. And the workaround as of right now is to relaunch the Home application, which defeats the purpose if I'm trying to go hands-free and use my voice to actually change my lighting. And then you have some updates or known issues for SwiftUI. And SwiftUI is that new application that Apple has allowed us to use, especially on the iPadOS side, which lets us code for actual iPad apps and iOS apps directly on the iPad. And then there have been some telephony issues. Now, I haven't actually dealt with the telephony issues, obviously, on the iPad Pro, because I'm not on cellular and I don't really do audio FaceTime calls and things like that. But I have noticed, and I thought it was actually just T-Mobile in general, I've been getting some drop calls on my iPhone 13 Pro Max, and I am on 15.0.2, so it's the latest public release, but I have been getting some drop calls, and also when I go to call somebody, it shows the call screen, but no ringing happens, and kind of the screen freezes sometimes. So the known issue is there, and they're telling us to toggle airplane mode off and on, which I did, honestly, by default without actually reading this, and it did kind of fix the issue. And we have some known issues with VoiceOver, so users might not be able to activate alarms in the clock app. So if you guys are dealing with that issue, please let me know in the comments below. I haven't personally dealt with that. And that's pretty much it. So you guys can see that they're just kind of elaborating on known issues. There are zero resolved issues. There are zero new features. Because if you start to scroll down and look at what happened with beta 15.1 beta 1, you can see that we have some resolved issues, and then also it gives us new features as well. But that is all we have for 15.1. So the next thing I do want to touch on is actual battery life. So let's go into the settings. Let's go into battery. Let's see exactly what we got going on here. So the last 10 days. So last 10 days, we're working with about 2 hours and 45 minutes of screen on time, 37 minutes of average screen off time. So on a day like Monday, for instance, 5 hours and 25 minutes of screen on time with about 75% battery usage. So that's a pretty decent day. So I guess Apple might have heard me complain about the battery life issues. So here you can see the LumaFusion 15%, an hour and 20 minutes. So that's actually good news. So if LumaFusion 15%, which means I can get 6 times of that 1 hour. So I can probably get around 7 to 8 hours of editing purely on LumaFusion. Safari, 19 minutes, took 14%. The home and lock screen, I kind of like to keep my lock screen on, especially when I have videos going on, so it doesn't just turn off in the background. You have Affinity Photo taking up, again, 13% is 24 minutes. So Affinity Photo is an application that really isn't optimized for the M1 processor quite yet, especially on iPadOS. It works totally fine, but you can tell that it's draining a ton of battery with very minimal use. And if we go on a day like Like Tuesday, for instance, you can see 2 hours and 50 minutes of screen on time, mostly LumaFusion, and that took up about 50 to 40% battery. So on a day like this, I probably could extend it to that 6-7 hours of battery life. Still not getting to that 8 to 10 or 11 hours of battery life, but again, we're doing more intense tasks, and we're not just like watching video or going through Safari, we're doing a little bit more than that. But from a battery standpoint, I have noticed some improvements, which is good to see, because again, Apple promised us that 10 to 12 hours of battery life, and since day one, I'm yet to get it. But at the same time, this has been on the iPadOS beta program the entire time. It's always on the Magic Keyboard, so I'm kind of draining battery that way at all times. And again, normally with my display and brightness, you can see that I have my auto lock at 15 minutes, which is probably not ideal for battery life. But that's gonna do it for this view. Let's go to the normal view. Also, shout out to everybody, 35K subs. That's awesome. So that is pretty much going to do it for this video, everybody. Like you saw, there weren't many differences at all. It was a small update, less than half a gigabyte. So normally when those updates are getting smaller and smaller, it means there's going to be less changes. So just bug performances, bug fixes, performance improvements, and then like you saw in the release notes, nothing really was changed in terms of tangible differences and feature sets and things like that. The main things are the conversation boost that came with the AirPods Pro and that new firmware update, the re-edition of SharePlay, and then on iOS 15, the COVID vaccination, but like passport cards that can be put into your iOS 15 device. So that's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this new little format that I'm trying to do. And also let me know about the audio, because we changed it up a little bit. There's actually a microphone right underneath me. Hopefully it's improving the audio a little bit. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video, because we got a lot more coming. Until next time, peace. We might have a M1 MacBook Air review coming out soon. Let me know if you guys want something like that.